Hi, Augustina. Welcome to Tuesday and today's faith and learning. I always want to call these episodes, not really episodes, edition, topic, lesson, I don't know. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. This week, or today rather, I want to share with you some of what I've been doing with confirmation and our time with Lenten mentoring. Similar to the rest of Augustina, we have been looking at the ripple effect of faith and if you believe it, are you living it from our faith practice cards for this year. And just like the rest of Augustina during weekly worship has looked at one of the 5 faith values we talk about in that theme, we've done the same in Lenten mentoring. We've spent 1 week throughout Lenten mentoring, throughout our Lenten series, looking at one of these faith values. And this week is our last week in that series. It's our last week in our Wednesday worship series as well before we head into Holy Week next week. And the faith value for this week is the Energized to Act cards. Energized to Act. This is a great faith value. I love the energized part. That just gets me excited. It gets me motivated to want to do something, and that's part of the purpose of that particular word, right? Being excited and motivated to go do, to put your faith into action. So here's what I want us to talk about today. As we think about energized to act, we have looked at 4 other faith values during Lent, and we're going to review them, and I wanted us to think about how they build off of one another and bring us to this week's Energized to Act, and how all of that feeds into if you believe it, are you living it? So here we go. The very first week we talked about created in God's image. And so in confirmation and as we did in worship, we talked about that faith value of being created in God's image as a lens to which we use to see other people, to see the world around us, that God is the creator and has created all. And how does that then shift the way that we see the world? If we think about God created everyone, God created everything, does that change the way you see someone else? Does that change the way you see a tree or the grass or whatever it might be? Which then took us into the guided by faith value. So starting with created in God's image, if we agree to that faith value, then our faith is guiding us. Again, if you go back to, if we believe God created everyone, then our faith is guiding how we treat everyone. Our faith is guiding how we treat the environment, how we treat ourselves, everything around us, right? Then that led us to inspired by the Spirit. And when we got to inspired by the Spirit, we talked about how the Spirit is nudging us and nudging us to do something, to act in a certain way or to not act in a certain way. Going back to those building blocks, created in God's image takes us to being guided by faith, but takes us to listening for that Spirit and how it is guiding us and leading us to make decisions. And then last week we talked about engaged in learning. Engaged in learning being that we are always reframing and reshaping what we see, what we hear, what we understand, because we're always learning. As we're taking in new information, as we're learning more, understanding a situation better, we're always reframing how we see things. All of that brings us to this week of Energized to Act. If we're doing all of those things, if we believe in all of those faith values, then we get to putting them into action, making sure that we're not just saying these are faith values that I believe and leaving it at that, but taking it then and putting it into action, which just gets us to that if you believe it, are you living it on the back of your faith practice cards. That question ties into the Augustina theme of where faith meets life. When I talk to confirmation students, I often explain that to them as thinking about how your faith shapes and guides who you are and how you show up in the world each day. So think about that. If you take those 5 faith values that we've looked at this year and continue to look at this year and let them shape and guide the decisions you make, big and small, each day, then your faith is shaping and guiding who you are and how you are showing up in the world each day, how you're treating people, how you're treating the world, how you're treating the environment. And to then bring that back to the ripple effect, with each decision we make, it has an impact on the people around us. It has an impact on the world, on our community. So if our faith is guiding us in the decisions we're making and how we see things and how we understand things, then hopefully we're making good decisions, right? Because that's what our faith is teaching us to do, that help us make the world a better place, that help us to live out what God has dreamed of for us and continues to dream of for us, because our faith is shaping and guiding us each day, because we are saying, yes, I believe it, and I'm living it. I'm putting it into action. I encourage you, as we wrap up this Lenten series, to continue using these faith practice cards. Use them into the summer, use them with the faith practice cards from last year or from the intention cards from the year before. You can combine them however they work best for you, but don't just let them get covered in dust somewhere in your house. Keep using them, keep putting them into practice, and keep challenging yourself to put these faith values into action. If you believe it, are you living it? Ask yourself that. See if it changes for you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you around here next week with our Holy Week services and with our Easter services. We have lots of options for those, so check out those options at augustana.com to see that schedule or in the April newsletter. Thanks, everyone.